Denver. Take a close look at the sky pattern right now, because something is lining up again. This isn't just another weak disturbance drifting through the Rockies. This is a developing winter system moving into a setup that has already proven it can produce real impact. Cold air is already in place. The jet stream is dipping south. Moisture is beginning to organize. And when those three ingredients align over Colorado, snowfall doesn't stay light for long. And the next winter storm is forming. And Denver is sitting directly in the potential impact zone. What makes this different isn't hype, it's positioning. A slight shift in track could mean moderate snow, or something much heavier along the Front Range. And if upslope flow strengthens at the right moment, snowfall rates could ramp up quickly. Tonight, we break down exactly what's developing, why Denver is in the crosshairs again, and the 7 critical weather lessons that explain how this storm could escalate. Because when winter reloads in Colorado, it rarely does so quietly. Let's get into it. 1. The pattern has reloaded. This is not a random storm. This is a pattern repeating itself. When we analyze winter weather across the United States, we don't just look at one storm. We look at the structure of the atmosphere. And right now, that structure is signaling something important. The jet stream is dipping again. That dip, what meteorologists call a trough, is carving into the western United States. When that happens, it opens the door for cold Arctic air to spill southward into Colorado. And once that cold air settles east of the Rockies, it doesn't just disappear overnight. It waits. Storm systems ride along the jet stream like trains on a track. And when that track locks into a favorable position over the Rockies, multiple systems can follow the same corridor. That's what makes this concerning. We're not looking at a one-off system forming out of nowhere. We're seeing a reload of the same atmospheric alignment that has already delivered impactful snow in recent weeks. Denver sits in a very sensitive zone during these setups. When the jet stream dips just enough, surface low pressure often forms to the south or southeast of Colorado. That placement is critical. It draws moisture northward while keeping colder air entrenched over the Front Range. It's a classic configuration. And when that configuration locks in, snowfall can exceed early expectations. What makes this moment particularly important is that models are beginning to show consistency. Multiple forecast runs are hinting at renewed energy entering the western US, reinforcing the cold air mass rather than pushing it away. That means the atmosphere isn't resetting to mild conditions. It's reinforcing winter. When you see reinforcement instead of relaxation in the upper pattern, that's when storms gain potential. Denver has seen this before. A system looks moderate at first glance. Forecasts start conservative. Then, as the upper-level energy sharpens and moisture deepens, snowfall rates intensify, especially along the R25 corridor. This is why we pay attention to pattern cycles. Because when winter reloads in Colorado, it rarely does so quietly. The atmosphere is setting the stage again. And when patterns repeat in winter, impacts often repeat with them. And in 2, Denver's geography is a snow multiplier. Denver is not just another city on the map. It sits in one of the most sensitive winter weather zones in the country. Positioned just east of the Rocky Mountains, the city exists in a narrow corridor where small wind shifts can dramatically change snowfall outcomes. And when the atmosphere aligns correctly, Denver doesn't just get snow, it gets enhanced snow. Here's why that matters. When a winter storm approaches Colorado from the southwest or west, surface winds often shift to the northeast ahead of the system. That may sound minor, but it's critical. Northeast winds push air from the plains directly into the Front Range. And when air is forced to rise up the slopes of the Rockies, it cools rapidly. Cooling air condenses moisture. Condensed moisture becomes heavier snow. This is called upslope flow, and it's one of the biggest snow amplifiers in the region. Without upslope, a storm may produce moderate snowfall. With upslope, totals can double in localized areas. This is why two neighborhoods just miles apart can wake up to completely different snow depths. One area might see 3 inches, another might measure 8 or more. The difference isn't luck, it's terrain. The Front Range acts like a wall. When moisture slams into it under the right wind direction, snowfall bands intensify and slow down. That slowdown is key, because slower moving snow bands dump more accumulation over a smaller area. Now combine that with cold air already in place. Snow ratios improve, flakes become fluffier, accumulation builds faster, and suddenly what looked like a routine winter system becomes a high-impact event for the Denver metro. This is why Denver often ends up in headlines during Western winter setups. It's not just about the storm strength, it's about where the storm meets the mountains. And right now, early projections suggest wind alignment could favor at least some upslope enhancement during this next system. That doesn't guarantee extreme totals, but it raises the ceiling. And when the ceiling rises in Denver during winter, forecasts can escalate quickly. Geography doesn't create storms, but in this region, it absolutely decides how big they become. 3. Cold air is already locked. In one of the biggest reasons this storm has serious potential is simple. The cold air is already here, and that changes everything. When winter storms have to drag cold air in behind them, snowfall can struggle at the start. You get rain first, slush, delayed accumulation, melting on contact. But that's not the setup this time. Right now, temperatures across the Denver metro and much of eastern Colorado are already sitting at or below freezing during key overnight hours. That means the ground is cooling. Pavement temperatures are dropping. The atmosphere near the surface is primed. When precipitation begins in an environment like that, it doesn't waste time transitioning. It falls as snow immediately. And that immediate transition is critical, because when snow starts accumulating from the very first hour instead of hour 3 or 4, totals climb faster than early projections often suggest. There's another factor at play. Colder air produces higher snow ratios. That means for every inch of liquid moisture in the storm system, you can get more inches of snow. Instead of heavy, wet snow at a 10-to-1 ratio, colder setups can push 12-to-1 or even 15-to-1 ratios, more fluff, more accumulation, less melting. And when snow is lighter and fluffier, it piles up quickly, especially during bursts of moderate to heavy snowfall. Cold air also increases impact speed. Roads freeze faster. Slushy patches turn solid more quickly. Elevated surfaces like bridges and overpasses ice first. Even moderate snowfall can become hazardous in a short time frame. And this is why meteorologists pay so much attention to pre-storm temperatures. If cold air is in place before the storm arrives, it acts like a locked door. The storm doesn't need to force its way in. It simply builds on what's already there. Right now, Denver isn't waiting for winter conditions. They're already established. So if this system strengthens as it approaches, accumulation won't hesitate. It will begin quickly. It will stick efficiently. And it could build faster than many expect. And when cold air is entrenched ahead of a winter system, the margin for error shrinks. And that's why this particular setup demands attention. 4. Storm track will decide everything. At this point, the atmosphere has loaded the ingredients. Cold air is in place. The jet stream is dipping. Moisture is organizing. But now comes the most important question. Where exactly does this storm track? Because in Colorado, and especially in Denver, a shift of just 50 to 100 miles can completely change the outcome. If the surface low tracks slightly south of Denver, that often places the metro area in the deformation zone, the region of strongest lift and heaviest snow bands. That's where snowfall can become persistent and intense. But if the track nudges north, Denver could end up on the edge of the heaviest banding. Totals would still accumulate, but the core impacts might shift toward northern Colorado. This is the fine line Denver lives on during winter setups. The city frequently sits near the gradient, the dividing line between moderate snow and heavy snow. And gradients in Colorado can be sharp. One community sees 4 inches, 20 miles away sees 10. That difference comes down to storm track precision. Upper level energy also matters. If the system strengthens as it crosses the Four Corners region and deepens over southeastern Colorado, snowfall intensity could ramp up significantly along the Front Range. But if it weakens or speeds up, totals may stay more moderate. Right now, forecast models are beginning to narrow in on a likely corridor, but they are not fully locked. And until the storm physically forms and consolidates, adjustments remain possible. This is the stage where forecast confidence builds or shifts. It's also the stage where viewers need to stay updated, because the difference between a routine snowfall and a headline-making event often comes down to that final track alignment. And in Denver's case, the crosshairs are narrow. If the track aligns perfectly with upslope flow and entrenched cold air, snowfall potential increases quickly. If it drifts slightly off that alignment, impacts decrease. That's why the next 24 to 48 hours are critical. The ingredients are present. Now the atmosphere decides the path, and the path decides the impact. 5. Snowfall rates will determine the real impact. When people hear 6 inches of snow, it doesn't always sound alarming. But here's what most people miss. It's not just how much snow falls, it's how fast it falls. Snowfall rate is the true game changer. If 6 inches falls gradually, over 12 to 15 hours, roads can be treated. Traffic adjusts, plows keep pace. Life slows down, but it functions. But if 3 inches fall in just 2 hours during peak commute, that's when problems escalate fast. Visibility collapses, roads turn white quickly. Traction disappears, accidents spike. Heavy snow bands, especially in upslope-enhanced storms, can produce snowfall rates over 1 inch per hour. And when rates cross that threshold, road crews struggle to keep up. Salt becomes less effective in intense bursts. Plows clear lanes, only for them to refill within minutes. And this is how a manageable forecast turns into a chaotic evening. And this particular setup has the ingredients for banded snowfall. When upper-level energy strengthens and moisture deepens at the same time, narrow corridors of heavy snow can develop. These bands may only be 10 to 20 miles wide, but under them, snowfall intensity can surge dramatically. One neighborhood sees light snow. 10 miles away, snow is pouring down. Those sharp bands create sudden deterioration. And now combine that with already cold pavement temperatures. Snow doesn't melt on contact. It sticks immediately. It compacts under traffic, and ice layers form beneath fresh accumulation. That's when travel becomes dangerous. Not because totals are extreme, but because intensity outpaces response. Airports are especially vulnerable to high snowfall rates. When bursts intensify, runway clearing operations slow and delays cascade quickly. That the key factor we will be monitoring closely with this storm is not just projected totals, but hourly snowfall rates. If rates stay moderate, impacts remain manageable. If rates spike during critical travel windows, disruption escalates fast. This is where storms earn headlines. Not from steady snow, but from sudden surges. And if Denver lands under one of those enhanced bands, even for a short window, the impact could feel much larger than the final snow total suggests. Because in winter weather, intensity writes the story. 6. Timing could multiply the impact. In winter weather, timing is everything. The exact same snowfall total can produce completely different outcomes depending on when it falls. If this storm intensifies overnight while most people are home, accumulation builds quietly. Roads are snow-covered by morning, travel slows, but adjustments happen before peak movement begins. But if heavier bands arrive during the evening commute, as that's when disruption multiplies. Traffic volume is high, visibility drops quickly, brake lights reflect off falling snow. Minor slowdowns turn into gridlock. A 25-minute drive becomes an hour. Emergency response times stretch. Timing transforms inconvenience into regional stress. Air travel is even more sensitive. If heavy snow coincides with peak departure waves at Denver International Airport, delays ripple nationwide. Aircraft de-icing slows operations. Gate assignments shift. Connecting passengers miss flights. Winter storms don't just affect one city, they create chains of disruption. School districts also watch timing carefully. A storm arriving just before dawn forces early decisions. Administrators must weigh safety against uncertainty. Late-night model updates can change everything. Then there's temperature timing. If snow begins during the warmest part of the day, melting may slow initial accumulation. But if it ramps up after sunset, when surface temperatures drop, accumulation accelerates quickly. Nightfall often enhances impact. This particular system appears capable of arriving in waves. That's another timing factor. Wave 1 may bring lighter snow. Roads become slick, but manageable. Then a second surge arrives, stronger, more organized, intensifying snowfall during a high traffic window. That second wave is often what surprises people. Storm evolution matters as much as arrival time. And right now, forecast guidance suggests we may not see a single quick burst. We could see a prolonged event with shifting intensities. That extends disruption. Instead of a 6-hour window of impact, you're looking at 12 or more hours of changing conditions. Timing isn't just about when it starts, it's about when it peaks. And if the peak aligns with high activity periods across Denver and the Front Range, impacts scale up quickly. And we will be watching this closely because in winter storms, the clock can be just as powerful as the snow. 7. Preparation. Windows can close fast. Winter storms rarely give second chances. At first, this system may look manageable. Forecast maps show moderate totals. Headlines stay cautious. people continue routines. But when all the ingredients are already in place, cold air locked in, upslope potential building, storm track narrowing, the atmosphere doesn't need much to escalate. And escalation in Colorado can happen quickly. One updated model run strengthens the low pressure center. Moisture deepens slightly. Snow bands organize more efficiently. Suddenly projected totals increase. Then snowfall begins, and conditions deteriorate faster than expected. This is where preparation matters, because once heavy snow is falling, options shrink. Grocery runs become difficult, travel plans tighten, highway conditions shift from wet to snow-packed in less than an hour. Visibility drops, minor traffic issues compound. The window to prepare is always before the first flakes, and that window is often smaller than people think. Another factor to consider is public perception. When multiple storms hit in a season, fatigue sets in. People assume it won't be as bad as last time, or we've handled this before. But winter storms are not identical events. Each has a different structure, different wind alignment, different intensity bursts. And underestimating one because the last was manageable can lead to rushed decisions when impact ramps up. Preparedness doesn't mean panic. It means awareness. It means checking updated forecasts, adjusting schedules if needed, ensuring vehicles are ready, allowing extra time for travel. Because if this system strengthens along the Front Range, snowfall could accelerate rapidly, especially under any enhanced banding. And once rates increase, reaction time decreases. Denver has seen it before. A calm morning turns into heavy afternoon snow. An expected 4-inch event becomes localized 8-inch pockets. Commutes double in length. Winter doesn't need dramatic headlines to create impact. It just needs alignment. Right now, the atmosphere is aligning again. The ingredients are there. The pattern is active. The city is in the crosshairs. And if this storm intensifies as it approaches, preparation will make the difference between inconvenience and disruption. And stay alert, stay flexible, and stay informed. Because when winter reloads in Colorado, it doesn't always wait for confirmation. It moves when it's ready. So here's where we stand. Another winter storm is lining up, and Denver is once again in the crosshairs. The pattern has reloaded. Cold air is locked in. Geography favors enhancement. Now it all comes down to track, timing, and snowfall rates. Over the next 24 to 48 hours, details will sharpen. Small shifts could raise totals. Intensity windows could change impact levels quickly. This is not a moment for panic. It's a moment for awareness. If you're along the Front Range, now is the time to stay weather aware, review travel plans, and watch for updated projections. Because in Colorado, winter doesn't need extreme headlines to cause disruption. It just needs alignment. We'll continue monitoring every model shift, every track adjustment, and every signal pointing toward impact. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss critical updates as this storm develops. Stay prepared, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next update.